All right, I think we can begin. So, first off, are you all hearing me properly?
Loud and clear.
All right, it sounds good. Sounds good. So, in order to make this feel a little less like a presentation and more like a debate, I'm gonna start things off as usual with, just taking the question and we're gonna go around the table. Of course, if you don't want to speak or if you don't have anything to say, that's fine as well. All right. So, as you saw from our poster, how do you think we can make Jamaica more productive?
Well, I think even before we get to that point, we kind of need to define what it means to be productive. So get the definition out of the way, and yeah.
All
So,
right.
what does productivity even mean?
What does it mean to you?
Hmm. For me personally, yeah, that's something that I'm still kind of working on, really hammering out definite meaning. But in general, it's kind of just like I know that there are things, many things for me that I would like to see done, and so being productive would mean making. Huh, here's another vague thing again: making decent progress, I guess, on those things that I would like to see completed, or things that I have to complete.
Hmm. Making progress on things you have to complete. I think that
Decent
sounds good.
progress, but yeah, it's kind of a vague thing, I guess.
All right. I think we can all kind of jump in and help Andrew sort out his definition. All right. Let's say, based on what you just said, let's say I have a task that I do every day, Monday to Friday. Let's say something at work, right? Let's say there's this task I do at work every day, and I want to increase the speed at which I get it done. Let's say this takes me 2 hours to do, and I would do this in 1 hour instead. As such, I would have increased my productivity.
Yeah, I can say that. Sure.
All right, so based on what I just said, we could use that as a baseline for what productivity is, increasing the speed and let's say efficiency at which you do certain tasks.
Okay. We have to also keep in mind the quality side of things as well. Because I wouldn't say I'm productive if, yeah, I do things faster, but I don't do it as well as it should be done.
So the quality needs to be maintained while the speed and efficiency has increased.
Yeah.
So let's go with an example, right? An assembly line where cars are put together. This used to be done entirely by humans back in the day, but bots have since been integrated into that workflow and they're doing repetitive tasks, utilizing these bots has increased the productivity at which we, now produce cars today. Can we all agree to that?
More or less.
More or less. All right. So based on all of that now that I've just gone through, how does everyone here think we can improve Jamaica's productivity?
Um, I guess in the context of a country, I guess productivity. I mean, would actually entail figuring out how to grow the economy. But to grow the economy, you have to have all these different moving parts working together. Um, and so in the context of say manufacturing, um, Jamaica probably doesn't do enough manufacturing as it can. One of the reasons probably that probably not enough upskilled labor, Um, so it kind of all boils back down to education. Um, I think I think any direction you go from is gonna always lead back to education, not education as in the context of say go university or whatever. But I mean even just overall education, how we think as a nation, or even just how we pass our knowledge overall. So honestly, it's just always come back to education.
Does anybody else have any views on how we can increase Jamaica's productivity?
Well, I'd like to touch on something a bit more base again as well. So I'm thinking uh country level, it's not just the individual. Yeah, the individuals are really important because without the citizens being quote unquote productive, you can't really have a productive country. And yeah, we also have to consider that everyone plays their unique part. Can't have too many people that do the same thing, or else it just not gonna really work. But yeah, so other than that though, we need to really consider the political climate of these things because say if let's see now, all right, bauxite. I'm not even sure how we're really doing with bauxite now, but I feel like we're falling down over the years. But yeah, hypothetically, I'm not sure of the current situation, but hypothetically, yeah, we mine bauxite and we create alumina and export that. But if the place where we typically export to say, okay, we don't really want anything more from over that place because of XYZ, then no matter how productive the persons who are actually working to mine and pre-process the bauxite are, we're still going to be in a loop because we don't have anywhere, we don't have a sink for the product. So the political climate also plays a factor in how we maintain our productivity. And then there's also kind of the issue of the brain drain problem, but that's kind of another thing. So yeah, there are all these moving parts, I was going to say that we just have to take into consideration.
All right, no need to overwhelm yourself with all these moving parts. I think the best way to go about this problem is to go by piece, right? So start off with one of those things you mentioned and say how it can be used or why it is working against us, etc., etc.
All right, so the main thing that I think we can really influence would be the brain drain factor, although that's kind of a catch 22. Because, in a way, so on one hand, we need a skill here to actually enhance our productivity, but we're losing that skill because, in a way, in other areas, we aren't being, I guess, productive enough in order to make sure that that skill gets the worthy payment and so on. So Yeah, that is a catch that is actively kind of holding things back. At that point, I am. I have thought about it sometimes. Can't really think of a decent way except just people stop leaving the country. Because yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard. People want to know that they are valued, but I guess in some ways the country can't uphold that value because there are missing parts. And missing parts in one section leads to missing parts in another section. So problems that we
Um,
need to just be able to, yeah.
yeah, sorry. But the idea of the brain drain is kind of a touchy topic in a sense that um, without the brain drain over the years, Jamaica probably wouldn't be as afloat as it is now due to the what's the word all that foreign exchange that gets sent back home, and that's I guess a part of what kind of keeps Jamaica afloat. Um, but in the context of Jamaica, Jamaica is is like a dot on the map. And so all these large countries are gonna always be, say, hey, come work for us and probably live. So I think someone mentioned a while back that that Jamaica probably could consider just training as a sort of an export. Um, so I don't know. So in a sense, saying that the whole brain drain needs to be addressed might not necessarily be the best starting point.
Yeah, like what
Something
would
you
we
said, Andrew.
be training?
Something you said caught my ear. You said that you're not sure how to stop people from leaving the country, right?
Essentially, I guess, yeah.
I think
Or
people.
more along the lines of those who I guess leave and don't contribute back to home in some meaningful way. Maybe add that in there because you have those who go out and yeah, they work and they send back stuff as remittance, or well, those who just work remote for somewhere overseas, and yeah, we're still getting the benefits here in general. But yeah, you have those who just leave and they disappear essentially.
All right. I think Jamaican people have been kind of clear. Right. They want to be paid more. I think the other day the government did increase salaries across the board for most persons in the public sector. Oh, O'Shane, were you saying something? I think I saw O'Shane on mute
Yeah,
a
I
while ago.
think it dropped out, maybe having mic problems.
So yeah, now that the government has, raised salaries, we shouldn't see people leaving en masse anymore, right?
Or what is actually happening? That's the question.
What is actually happening? I've heard many stories of persons who left the private sector to go work in the public sector because they would be paid more.
Huh. Well, that's definitely news. That is not something that I would expect at all. So yeah, that's I don't really know what else to say to that because the typical thing is that people leave public to go private because it's I guess known historically that the public sector does not pay as well as the private sector. So I guess maybe things are somehow, yeah, I don't know what the economics are there that would cause some a flip like that. Because usually private sector pays well, very well compared to public sector.
What are the economics that would cause a flip like that? All right. So, as somebody who pays close attention to the country's economy and what's happening in the news, the past 5 or so years has seen the country grow, leaps and bounds. They were able to finish their IMF deal on good terms. Country's being hailed as this pariah of this great turnaround story that can now afford to build all these fancy new roads and highways you see into places like St. Thomas, and can also now afford stuff like increasing the salary for public sector, right? I know of, like, I know a particular case, right? An old colleague of mine, he left the private sector to work at the public sector. And now I think he's getting paid almost double what his previous salary was. So I'd say, things are being put in place to kind of retain that talent, but pay is just one part of the story. By the way, anybody else that wants to jump in on the debate, it's open. You can unmute your mic.
Some individual not too long joined, so if you can just repost that question, that would be fine. Like the current topic.
All right. So the question and what we're currently debating is, how can we increase Jamaica's productivity? Andrew had put forward that, hey, brain drain is one of the things keeping the country's productivity low, and I was countering his argument, saying that, hey, people wanted to be paid more, and now the government has not only doubled, some person's salary gone up triple, and then people in the public sector are now being paid more and leaving the private sector for the public sector.
Oh, okay. I get it. Um, Alright, so I'll add my 2 cents, which may or may not make sense, but it depends on perspective. So as you know, with a lot of people leaving the country via brain drain, one of the opportunities that of course arise during COVID is remote work. So more and more we see more individuals doing remote work for US clients, whether they're developers, whether they're just call center workers or so forth, or some other job title. So that is, well, one to open up more opportunities like that because nearshoring is a big thing, and nearshoring is pretty much we're closer to large companies that tend to impact the world on a technological scale. So having like them come to like the Caribbean to look for whether tech talent, whether actuarial science, what you name it. And it set up in a, like a remote situation. Especially for example, if company can do outsourcing to those uh, overseas clients that in the US or Canada that can create one wealth for companies and of course individual. But of course companies that do outsourcing, part of the problem which goes back to how they tend to do it is when they outsource employee, they would take a cut of that salary, and most of the time these cuts might be like they take huge portion of the money they're collecting and just give the employee probably 30 to 40% of that. Of course, there are companies that do the opposite by providing adequate amount of pay to ensure that the workers stay as well as additional incentive. I think I heard something about public sector. For that, yes, the government has increased public sector work, and that's nice and dandy. But at the end of the day, cost of living is going up. So even if there's an increase, is that increase enough? And then there's also the topic of job satisfaction certification, are people, happy in the positions that they're working, whether it's because they're not getting enough pay. It takes long for them to get transportation, or just the working environment is just not conductive. Um, all of that, it can play a role in people just wanting to leave the country because there's like gatekeepers and so forth. So in any case, it's just providing better opportunities that are meaningful for individuals. That's how I see it would be more productive and a way for reducing brain drain. Yeah, so that's my 2 cents. Just for example, as you know, call center is something that they were promoting pre-COVID, and then during COVID, the government started to promote engineering through the Amber Academy. So even though engineering is meaningful at least to us, the there are cases, as we saw with that whole Amber strike, employees are being mistreated, not getting enough pay, this, that, and so forth. So, of course, there's some truth and some misconception to that, or scenario. But at the same time, there is a deep-rooted truth that other companies, not just Amber, may have created a situation like that for people. So it's a matter of how can we build like a suitable, sustainable, comfortable working environment for people. And yeah, it's just a mess. There's no easy answer. It's a matter of just implementing whatever policy or environment we can to support the economy and the environment for the working class.
All right. So one of the things you'll notice that this is a big and a broad topic, right? So what I've been encouraging people is focus on specific things. A while ago we focused on pay. I talked about public sector pay. Next up, I think Glenn mentioned remittances, right? So personally, I'm not a big fan of remittances. Remittances help Jamaica in the sense that it helps specific people. It doesn't help the country as a whole, in my view. Because if you really think about it, if remittances were really helping the country as a whole, in the sense that, we're more productive now and things are much better now. We have all this infrastructure and all these other things, then I think the country's problems would have been solved a long time ago. So we shouldn't confuse remittance or view remittances as this great thing that's um, driving productivity or anything else in the country. It's just really people sending money to specific individuals.
But to add to that, though, when these specific individuals get that money, they are still spending it in the country. So it still gets distributed. So it still seems kind of okay to me from that perspective. Some might save it, but even if they were even working themselves and not getting anything from overseas, they might still be saving. And I guess we know that when capital is just lying there, it's not really doing anything or helping anyone. It needs to actually be, I guess you would say, moving around. So people have to be actively buying and selling things. And so I guess maybe this is a part of the issue. Enough people aren't buying and selling because the climate, I guess, isn't conducive enough to that. So maybe a part of getting that productivity increase is to get is to figure out how we can get people being more participatory in the economy so that we can have all that capital circulating around and actually making an impact.
You're saying that if more persons are buying and selling goods, it will increase the productivity of the country?
Well, I'm not quite sure actually. It just seemed to me like when you say that remittance comes in and it doesn't really help, it's more along the lines of remittance comes in and it may be used or it may not be used. So it just needs to be used. People need things to use it for in a safe way. Just a train of thought there.
Question: what is it that we're using to measure productivity, though?
What's the question? You sound kind of low.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
what's the continue?
yeah, what tool are we using to measure productivity? Which is a
Oh,
good question.
yes. So earlier, we kind of went through defining first, what is productivity even, right? If you even look through historical record, Jamaica has had historically low productivity. So for the benefit of this debate, we are gonna define. All right, can anyone hear me? I just rejoined.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, what's the last thing you heard that I said?
The last thing I heard for the benefit of this conversation, um, we're going to define productivity as, and you went there for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on the internet. It looks like Andrew dropped us. All right, so I was saying that for the benefit of this conversation, we're going to define productivity as how much can one get done in a day. For example, let's say you're at work and you have a task that takes 2 hours, but you increase your productivity and that task now takes 1 hour. So you can get more done with the same amount of hours in the day. I also gave another example. Yes, modern day vehicle assembly factories, right? So vehicle assembly factory mostly used to be, man assembling vehicles, but now they've added robots there that automate some of the processes. So they're now able to push out more than twice as many vehicles that they used to, right? Okay, everybody following now?
Yes, yes.
Yes, getting more work done in less time.
Okay, so with all of that said, bear in mind that Jamaica has historically had low productivity. I think it ranged from like zero point 0.4 to like 0.6%. So, we're not even at 1%, right? All right. With all of that said, I want to move on to the next subtopic within all of this because we're at remittances last. I think, did everybody say what they wanted to say regarding remittances?
Um, I just was wondering, how would remittance be uh be in the topic of productivity? Given the definition that you just used.
Who, remind me, who brought up remittances again? Was it Lynn or was it Andrew?
Yeah, it was Andrew.
Andrew, are you back? I guess he.
But he's muted at it. Maybe he's having microphone issue.
All right. So if he You should be able to explain a little further later regarding what you're saying. So I think we can move on in the meantime.
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna push the question around the table again. How do you guys think we can increase Jamaica's productivity? Or think about yourself and what you do at work or in daily situations. How would you increase your own productivity?
Um, if no one else has anything to say, I'd say productivity can be increased if you have systems in place, or if you take a systematic approach in whatever it is that you're doing. So apply some form of structure. I feel like Jamaica has a lot of informal um, businesses or informal ways of conducting business. A lot of persons are unstructured in the way how they go about things. So if there's more structure put in place, more systems put in place, then you can be more efficient, thus increasing your productivity.
All right, give me an example.
So for instance, software development. You're an independent software developer and you realize a lot of persons are requesting that you build a particular type of application. So, for instance, an e-commerce storefront. Um, Upon recognizing that, what you could do is put together some kind of template that you could reuse and repurpose for clients that have similar needs. But if it is that you don't do something like that, which would kind of be like a system that you're putting in place to ensure that as soon as somebody has a request like this, you can hit the ground running and quickly turn over a project to them. If you don't have something like that, you'll find yourself reinventing the wheel or just doing things over and over again, even though it's something that is a common request. So that's a simplistic example. But of course, you have other examples that kind of highlight the importance of that systematic approach more.
To touch on is point, which I 100 definitely agree with. And this is something that I experienced in US, Japan, and other countries. The speed of doing business. Jamaica has an issue at the speed of doing business. The processes that are in place, like he had indicated, is too unstructured, too informal, and it creates a bottleneck. So, for example, a good example of a company, for example, in the banking industry that is trying to do it a bit more systematic, it's like NCB. I noticed recently that NCB, well, not recently, last year, NCB implement a appointment booking system on their website where someone can go on book that, oh, they want to come in on whichever day, whichever time to see a particular individual, or they want to see a particular um what should I say, um person with that this type of job position. So if they want to do our own, they will select, oh, want to speak to our own manager. Want If they want to do business, it would go to a business clientele. So that reduce the time waste for people to go to the bank, spend all day in the bank to do one single thing. That's a systematic approach to reduce, time and get to the point where the person can conduct their business and move on because they have other business to do during that day instead of wasting all day at the bank. Another is, of course, Um, Banks, for example, is one of the biggest bottleneck in the country. So I do see where some of them are trying to improve the speed of like making payments and just doing like banking. But at the same time, there's a lot of unstructured, informal processes. We still have to go the, through the bank, especially if you open up a new bank account. You have to provide all sort of unnecessary document, even though it is used for reducing fraud and identity verification, but it creates a bottleneck in conducting business. So again, a systematic approach of how we can speed up the conducting business aspect. So I do agree with it.
Or Shane, this sound kind of personal, you know.
Yeah, of course it is personal. I think it should be personal for, well, not should be. I think it's most likely personal for all of us. I mean, all of us use banks in Jamaica, and at some point in our life, we face a ridiculous situation with banks. Am I wrong?
Yeah, so
Um, Sorry, yeah, interesting. Like this, the same issue exists in the public sector. I'm probably 10 times worse. When I was in the public sector, I had to do a lot of orders and so on, ordering, and between or say I put together the list of stuff in January. I probably won't be seeing the item before it in December, and um like it was mostly because of red tape. So I had to do this put up this invoice. Then I had to go out and find three different suppliers, at least three different suppliers who actually can source the equipment. Um, and then when I do that, I have to bring it to the procurement department. Procurement do what they have to do, and then send to a board, and the board have to talk about it 10 different times or something. And so it affects productivity a lot because no, okay, yo, all of the supplies finished, and there's no way we can do certain things, um and this wasn't at one of the teachers colleges, um and if that single situation, yes, you can imagine like probably like 10 different departments, or 10 different individuals having the same issues, separate issues. You know, think about all the possibilities. In fact, as a training institution where it is pretty essential that teachers in training would have get all the hands-on experience and so on. But then the fact that procurement is a big issue, where so no way to get equipment. So when you go into the schools, you have no idea what you do because you never get the hands-on experience. And so it's like this waterfall, dominoes turning over. And so end up that having less knowledgeable teachers out there because they don't have experience. They don't them they probably go back to school or somewhere else to relearn the knowledge that them never learn. And it's just a part of the yeah.
Yeah, and just before we pivot from this topic, I just wanted to add that productivity and efficiency are closely linked. It's almost as if as soon as you're more efficient with how you do things, you're automatically more productive because you're using less resources to achieve more. So, and we find that in a Jamaican setting, we're very slow to adapt, whether it is technologies or different models or ways of doing things. We're very slow to adapt to these things, and as a result, there's not an improvement there is not the productivity that should exist as is displayed in other countries or so is it's not here because we don't readily try to implement new things or new ways of doing things. So that's another thing.
All right. If anybody else wanted anything more to say on this, you can jump in. So we're
Yeah.
on. Go ahead. Go ahead, Andrew.
Um. Regarding the bit about so Oceana and Glenn touched on that where the bank might be super inefficient or the teachers college might be super inefficient because of all of these, shall I say, extraneous processes. So that kind of has me wondering. It's something that I thought on and off. How do these extra processes come in the first place? And like, is there any way to really mitigate them? How do we reduce these processes? How do they come about? What problem are those processes solving? Because if they're not really, there has to be an original problem there that caused that all that extra stuff. So, like for the bank, KYC came in because of scammers and all of that. But yeah, just in general, we have these issues. We have a lot of red tape coming into being. So maybe in a way, if we could look at what causes X kind of red tape to come into being, and look at how Tariq said that overseas hardly have this problem. So how are these things being resolved overseas? Is it just new technology or what? Are, are we really just missing out on getting new tech? And if that's the case, what's stopping us from adopting new tech?
Well, I mean, it's not just tech, and I think Tariq, hope I pronounce that right, um, touch on it. It's just overall adaptivity. So whether it's tech, whether it's processes and procedures. So for example, if in the public sector, right, we they realize that this the procurement process is too long. We can literally speed up the procurement process by introducing like less granular things, right? And have a simple way for people to submit bid and it, and then the discussion in like whether they should choose this, that, and so forth. Um, all of that can be speed up with just an efficient process of getting to the goal. So let me give you an example. And of course it's recorded, so I'll try to do this very not. Okay, so example, I was in a particular government meeting, whereby I'm aware that Person A was the one who initially developed the system. The system was well built and was completed. And government got the money to do it got the money from World Bank to do it. It was done, but it wasn't maintained. No data was added to the system and so forth. Fast forward 5 years later, they realize, oh, they have this system, it hasn't been maintained, no new data was added. We need to let's revamp and let's upgrade the system. So I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. The person who did it, they just call him back because he's willing. Because I spoke to him and he said, yes, the general consensus was no, they can't rehire that person because that person was subcontracted. So they can't because they had contract someone and that person subcontract him. They can't hire him to do the job. So they had to go through an entire 3 months procurement process. And what happened? the same person got the job. So what was that 3 months for? So again, processes that they have in place kind of make things a bit ridiculous and it can be sped up. And it's good that there are policies and procedures in place, but if the policies and procedure that they have is reducing the efficiency of getting to that implementation stage, then the country is going to continue moving so. And so this is not a technology side, this is more about the policies and procedures that they can change to make the process a bit more efficient.
So in that case, what's preventing these changes to policies and procedures from happening? Why
What's a
aren't they being adopted?
book? All right. So for it to be adopted, the policies to change it have to go through, you know, another procedure change or policy change where we have to submit the candidate or we're going to make these change. Candidate review it. There might be gatekeepers to say no, this shouldn't be the case. Yes, this should be the case, and a whole big discussion about it. Then it goes back between cabinet and the whole procurement until a decision is made probably 3 5 months later. So part of it is the people who is in charge and then the back and forth discussion to get to that resolution. That's there's it's a problem, it's not a solution because it cannot be solved. Um, it can be solved by changing the people, but changing the people will go through another, you know, process. So it's like a ever, it's just like a loop at this point.
I
And
I
people with
I
power don't want to give up power.
I recall the same problem coming up I think a few months ago in the government, and they were forced to do a lot of changes to reduce the procurement time. So I mean I guess it's a known problem and some people are trying to fix it, but that's like at a government level. But internally at the different organizations, um, a lot needs to be done. As I said, sometimes there's a lot of gatekeeping happening. Some people probably feel threatened that that once they give up certain control, things will happen different for them. So I really don't know how we would solve that problem generally.
It's more of a people slash human problem, Andrew. There's no way around.
So country dead. That's
No,
basically what where we're at now. We're at this point where we're saying people need to change, but people aren't changing, and so there will not be change.
all right,
Well,
let me
there
jump
will
in here. Hold on.
well, just let me just say it's one last thing. There will be change, but it's all about timing. That's the issue, and that's why Jamaica is so to adapt. Because by the time the people are changed out and new people feel that road that has a vision, passion for the change, it's probably 2 3 years later, and still adoption rate. But continue, Jason.
All right, so I'm getting a sense that there's a lot of tension here, and some of you had experience in and outside of government dealing them. But what I do want you all to know is that change is happening. It's just that it's taking a while. So procurement specifically was mentioned, and one of the things that was announced in the budget debate earlier this year by Dr. Clark was that they're gonna be making some changes to the procurement processes, to make it less cumbersome, because he's acknowledged that these things take a lot of time. The next thing the next thing you have to realize that, Andrew, why do some of these processes and some of these roles exist is that on one end they exist so that some persons have a job, a role is created, and the employment is there. On the other end, it's really just corruption, right? So if this task has to pass through my desk or has to pass through me, somebody could, maybe bribe me or slide something under the table, right? Corruption has been a very long-standing problem. So I'm gonna kind of pull things back a bit to essentially the topic that we're all on, but the overarching topic now at this phase is digitization, right? So digitization would give you a way to track a lot of what's going on. So you would know who is getting bribed by who in a sense or who is messing up with the system. So you're now faced with a situation where many individuals have been opposed to the digitization of the country for a very long time. Some persons, who were in power, they didn't understand it, and they wanted to keep, that money flowing straight to their personal wallets. Other persons, they're just afraid because they think, hey, all these digital systems are gonna have me losing my job. And before I stop, I just wanted to touch a few things that I heard mentioned earlier. One was banking. So the past 5 or maybe 4 years, I've seen just this rapid growth and let's say a lot of less red tape being used. O'Shane mentioned NCB and its appointment system. I know that I can open a bank account in a week by going to that online opening site for NCB where I could just give, I think it was a TRN ID, and I think that was it. And you could open a low KYC account with them and a few other banks. I know CIBC recently announced that you can go online and open an account. So a lot of red tape has been removed in the past couple of years so you can open your account online. Aside from that, government and its processes and systems were mentioned, right? So passport renewal, you can go online and get your passport, renewal done completely online. I think there was a thread by Mark Gale. He said that he went online, applied, I think Sunday, and by Monday or Tuesday, he got back his new passport that was renewal. There's another change that's happened in government where traffic tickets, you used to have to go join some long line to pay traffic tickets. You can now pay your traffic tickets online, right? Which is way better than you going to join any line. Like you can apply for your police record online. So the government has been doing its part to push digitization, right? It was, I think, kind of top down. The person at the top seems like they're pushing this digitization agenda, and others have been following suit. Now, I notice we have a few new persons that join. Right now, we're discussing, how to increase productivity, and the umbrella topic is digitization. So if any of you want to jump in or speak on anything that I have just said, you have a chance to do so. All right, I haven't seen anybody jump. So before we move on from
I had
digitization,
something to, I had something to
somebody
add,
just
bro.
jump.
Yeah.
Oh, Tariq, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, another thing which impacts productivity or just persons or companies being slow to adapt new technologies is the lack of competition in certain industries. Certain industries are not, they don't have much players, so there's not enough competition to force them to do something better or to offer a better service or to improve a certain aspect of the business. So you find that a lot of companies are quite comfortable with their market share or whatever it is. And as a result, the customers just have to take what you get, so to speak. So that's another thing which I think impacts productivity.
All right, before we move on from, the whole grand digitization subtopic, is there anything anyone would like to say? All right then. Next up, we're gonna touch something that's trending, something that many of you are probably interacted with already. Artificial intelligence. So, how can we use artificial intelligence to improve Jamaica's productivity, and how can it be used to improve, productivities in your daily lives?
Well, uh, AI, well, don't even really want to say AI because in a way we're not really at that point yet in any case, and that's I think that's part of the issue. So we have this thing going around that AI is going to solve a bunch of stuff. Yes, we have these nice improvements for like large language models. That's where we're currently at, and that's just a subset of the whole thing. But yeah, in some cases that can help. Like if you want to write up a really quick letter and you can't really think of the exact wording and content, you can just open up Chat GPT or Claude and put in the points that you want in the letter and tell it to just generate the letter for you. And it gives you something nice that you can then go back and edit. But what has been really happening, I think, and I have seen a lot of persons also be saying, is that there's this huge expectation that, oh, we have AI now, so all of our problems are solved when this is not the case. So in a mostly it's coming from, as I've seen, mostly it's coming from a managerial side. Manager sees, oh, AI is out there, so I can have everyone adopt it, and productivity will go through the roof. When these the tools aren't there yet, they are useful for particular cases, but it's like manager wants these tools to be used for, I guess, everything. So there is that clash going on there where one expectation is that, well, we have this thing that we can use for everything now, but from a practical perspective it cannot be used for everything yet. And yeah, a big part of that is kind of just because it's called AI, and with that moniker comes certain expectations. So that's a big issue there when we're talking about productivity. It's two different understandings of productivity. On one side, there's that expectation that with this new thing, productivity will increase greatly. But on the other side, yes, it may be used for some things, and so it will make some tasks easier, but it's just not going to add as much value as is expected. So that's kind of my take on that.
To add to what said, I agree to some extent, and I think at times a lot of people just throw around AI as the buzzword without truly implementing AI to solve an issue. And even if they do, it it don't necessarily mean that it will solve the issue or increase that productivity. But what I can say is, actually something is being done with it to try to solve an issue. And I'm going to do a plug here for a project that someone posted, which was the healthcare project that was submitted to the Gemini API for Google. I hope you guys support that project, that Jamaican project. That I guess Franco Pencil push for healthcare, which is healthcare AI and it's a health management system. So touching on that, we've seen where AI has been used in customer care help desk system to whether it's for a chatbot system or gonna get into what the customer pain point is to give them a solution. So there's adaptability towards that, and that may increase productivity overall on the business side because they're solving more customer issue at a larger scale. Instead of having dedicated agents handling different tasks, the chatbots are to me it's more of a chatbot than an AI, but some of them may implement large language models to really understand what the customer is saying to get to that resolution. But regardless, that help to increase productivity on the business side and don't waste people time. And of course, with the healthcare system, I'm not sure how they implement AI in it, but of course, we know that AI has been a topic in healthcare to do diagnostic or uh, giving information or to doctors and so forth based on information gathered. I'm assuming that's what they're doing, and that may increase like productivity to solve to identify the actual problem and make recommendation for that whatever medication or advice they need to give patients. And I seen companies actually implement a true AI system that helps customers to solve their issues without even talking to a actual agent. So I do think it's going to impact the future a lot, as I guess as you guys think as well. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Yep.
Has anyone here used AI to increase their productivity?
I have. I, I have. I don't. To be honest, I'm not a fan of Copilot or any code generation tool. I prefer to write my own code because quality checks are done when I do my own code, and I understanding of the system, a better understanding of the system when I do my own code than AI just generate it, and then I've seen where it generates the right code, but it's garbage code at the same time. Meaning the code works, but the output is slightly different from what is expected. And that goes back to what Andrew said with it's not going to solve every problem. But yes, I've used it, especially with writing documents and emails and so forth. It's been very helpful.
My main use is from a research perspective. But like my main, I guess, service is perplexity. So what I'll do is I just use it to say, okay, I want to look up some particular thing. And so instead of going to a search engine, which is going to give me a list of results that I have to click through everything and all of that, I just ask a question and get a decent response along with the sources for those response. So that's kind of the main reasoning behind using something like Perplexity itself. because like yeah, ChatGPT and Claude and I guess a couple others, they don't either they don't have access to the web in general, or they don't provide the sources. They just give you the output straight, and you just have to like accept it, and hopefully you know if it's wrong or not. But yeah, because we're not quite there yet, and I guess we're supposed to know that we're not there yet. We're supposed to take this. We can use it, but always take it with a grain of salt and say, all right, I got this thing now. Is it correct? Hopefully, I have a source there to check. Some things like if you use it generate a snippet of code, then either the snippet works or it doesn't work. So that's straight up, yeah, you know that's straight. But for research, for knowledge based stuff, that you should really like always check and make sure that, all right, if something looks even slightly off here, you know that you can go check the source and see what's going on there. So yes, I have used it, and that's just my approach to using this new thing because, yeah, again, it's not perfect. We just have to use it the best we can to up our productivity while still maintaining quality while we're at it.
Yeah, I kind of agree because I can say I use it for increased productivity, but it's just like a lot of the mundane tasks I have to do because I work a lot in SQL, and sometimes when users want data and something, they would send like an Excel file, and instead of copy out those ID in Excel file, build a script to pull the data, or actually load the Excel file in a table, I can just copy those IDs into ChatGPT or what's that Microsoft one, Copilot, and just say, make this SQL select list with a field called X below the query for me, and then I do any other modifications. So it saves me at least a good 5 minutes, and even for like writing emails as well.
Yeah, personally, I actually use it mostly to generate test cases. So while I might sometimes use it to probably write a snippet of code or so, but like O'Shane, I kind of prefer writing code. But sometimes depending on what kind of code you're writing, you probably want to. It's probably going to take a bit of time to go and write all the tests by hand. So I find it very useful in that scenario. Interesting. I saw a post on Twitter earlier this week. Someone said that a, a bad developer using cursor is still a bad developer. So I don't know.
No, but I think the thing is because a lot of persons like they're trying to rely on just the AI to write the code. They use it to start like I want like example. I use it in Flutter already. Like I want to build out a class. It's kind of annoying to build out all the different classes, different class. So I just say, all right, these are the list of fields I need. These are the function. It give me the base template, and then I add anything that I want to build from there. So I use it to just like generate templates or snippets instead of writing the entire code.
All right. Okay. So before we leave the topic of AI, is there anything anybody else would like to say?
Well, I think one of the biggest problem that we're going to have with implementing AI in Jamaica is the resistance to change that's in the culture, especially in government. A lot of the older persons they don't like new things, especially the ones them that are closer to retirement, and they're the ones that are making all the decisions. Because there's like, all right, why am I going to implement this thing where I could probably take over my job?
Read that government point. I think a lot of these policies and things and instructions given are top down, the current prime minister, he seems to have been very digitally focused from at all the time, right? So even though some members in government might not be for like some changes or transition, he has certainly been pushing it, and we've been seeing, I mentioned some of the results earlier, like online processes for like traffic tickets and police record application, and even the passport renewal process. Now, a lot of other things are also gonna go online as well. So I think, and was it earlier this year or last year? He appointed a literal minister of digitization and digital skills training. So I think, really, as far as government's going, person at the top seems to have his head on properly.
Yeah, well, I will give them that. They're getting better, but like I can share a scenario because this is very recent. And I know this is just a one office, so I know this is probably like the entire thinking, but I lost my wallet and I needed to renew some stuff, TRN and so on. So I went to the tax office. So I'm like filling out the paper and all of this something. So I just said to the lady, say, yo, I can just make these things online, so person doesn't have to come to the office, only have to come to the office to actually pick up the TRN. She looked at me and said, everything you guys want online, if everything is online, we don't have any jobs.
What you heard is an individual who's afraid of losing her job. That's why her response is like that, right? So, kind of,
That's the general feeling for many. Many persons are running around scared at every level because they see this thing and they see it doing wonderful things, and the only thing that comes to mind is, oh, if it's doing this and that, then that means I'm going to lose what I'm doing here now, and they well, a part of it comes on to them not really knowing too that, well, this thing is still really new and it's not perfect, it makes mistakes and all of that, so you still need that human in the feedback, so they still safe, at least for the next maybe 5 to 10 years, 15. I don't know. But yeah, it's all coming down to uh back to education. It all comes back to education. If you don't know the capability of something, you can't really, what's the word? You can't really determine how useful it is, and how to really take advantage of it.
Yeah, night guys. I can agree with that. But back to the point that I don't not sure who was making the point, but um most of these things come from a top down level, and from it's coming from a top down level, like institutions like TAJ, they'll just have to fall in line, especially if they're the ones on the ground that has the growth. I said that to say that previously they weren't using this system that they had in TAJ to calculate taxes. It was strictly paper based, and the people that could actually calculate taxes were the ones that worked in the accounting department. Since recently, they implemented this system where they could essentially, someone like you or I could go in, enter some forms enter some figures into a form, and it would generate everything for you in terms of how many taxes you need to pay, how much is outstanding from previous tax years, etc. And when it was just coming in, people were afraid, so to speak, meaning the ones on the ground. However, like the managers and the minister were pushing for it, and everybody just had to fall in line. So I believe like once you have good management that is for it, people have no choice, so to speak, than to just accept moving towards it.
But the main problem, though, with that, and I touched on this earlier, is that yeah, it's really getting a big push from up top. But again, this system, particularly we're talking about AI, quote unquote, AI here, it's not quite ready for prime time. So the expectations of management is going to be way higher than the actual capability of the thing. Management expects a lot. The thing can help, but doesn't help nearly as much as management. is expecting it to. And well, the people who have to deal with it probably don't even know how to explain that to the manager in the first place, if manager will even listen. So, so yeah, there's always that discard.
Yeah, that I 100% can agree with that, especially on this one topic of AI. Although it spans the other topics, but 100% as people overestimate what AI is and what it can do, because it just seems like this black box that can just answer anything you want, as if it's a literal person, which allows people to think that it's actually a person with cognitive reasoning abilities when it's really not. Because I remember someone said something about Copilot earlier, and one thing I can say about Copilot is that it has some rampant hallucinations. I remember I asked it to generate uh, a method for me, and it did so. And I said I don't like it, so disregard that. Then I asked a follow up question, and it continued to use the method that it generated before that I told it I did not want to use. So stuff like that, normal people would not understand that. It's something that essentially is just a computer who's storing information, input output type of thing, rather than somebody who is understanding and knows the context of questions.
But what point is that this isn't just to AI, it's just when it comes to tech in general. The managers don't really care, they just want you to get it done. So is it going to be done securely? Is the code going to be clean? Is it going to crash 2 weeks down the line after it done? Them not care, they just want it done.
Yeah, I
After they crash
understand that.
them, but before they crash them, don't care.
Yeah, and I think that's I can't say that's how it's always been, but I know that regularly, especially in organizations that work closely with, say, like the government, it has always been, oh, we need this to get done, so just do it without everybody understanding fully the context of and what is needed to do it. I think it's just that, yeah, I'm not sure how we can solve that issue because it's been something, especially in our, realm and in our country that has always been happening.
As Andrew mentioned, everything boils back down to, education, letting the people know that, hey, some of you are going to lose your jobs, but guess what? New jobs will be created, right? So, in this whole productivity debate, you have to ensure that you're carrying the people with you and that people are being upskilled, right? You upskill them, ensure that they can now fill these roles and they're getting paid higher and things like job satisfaction and other things. Yeah, important as well, but I think one of the main pain points for other people is really just pay, which we touched on earlier. All right. I heard AI used in a few specific use cases, right? And as somebody else mentioned, it's not this black box that you throw everything into, right? It can do a lot of tasks like, help me plan my day or, generate this code line or generate this image for me, and AI video as well is coming up and has come up far away. So we as a country can get there, but you have to ensure that you bring the people with you. Now, I don't want to leave AI just yet before anybody else has anything to say on it. So, if any of you have anything to say regarding how AI can increase productivity or anything along that line, you can speak up now. All right, all right. So, before I say what's in my head, I'm gonna throw out the question again. I know some of you joined late, but how do you think we can increase Jamaica's productivity? All right, no taker. So I didn't hear anybody mention remote work and transportation, right? Like Jamaican people, we spend a lot of time in traffic, you know. Especially if you live over, on the Kingston side or the Portmore side, you'll see traffic to work and traffic coming from work. Where if a person had just work from home, they could have gotten way more done, right? So, what do you guys think about, the whole transportation system and remote work? Are people at home doing nothing, just lying around?
All right. I actually did mention remote work, though, but it's mostly nearshoring, but not locally. But I'll touch on locally since you mentioned it. Yeah, as you know, during COVID, the world shift over to remote. Of course, Jamaica wasn't an exception, and companies and the government had mixed feeling about it. Government was trying to endorse it. Companies saw a bit of a lack of productivity because you never know what an employee may be doing when they're not in the office. And of course, some companies saw increase in productivity because there there wasn't a lot of distraction. Because sometimes at work, there's a lot of distraction here and there. So some people are able to focus and get more work done. Um, but to touch a bit more on that, yeah, remote work locally system can be in place to boost productivity and have like a flexible working hours so people can, you know, perform very very efficient um within their within a particular time period. Because what I'm trying to say, there are people who perform extremely well in the morning, while some people perform extremely well in the night. Of course, depending on the operating hours, certain companies may not allow it, or should I say, it's not the best time for the person to do work in the night. But of course, in tech, we are flexible hours. So yes, remote work can boost productivity, but it's not for everyone. Because not everyone has a discipline to work remotely. So it's like a half and half there. In terms of transportation, um, the transportation system can be fixed by implementing systematic solution, especially with public transportation, where there is a scheduled bus system that is actually working. That people know the bus will come 5:30, 6:30, and so forth. The only set of bus I know that is like on time regardless of what is the premium JUTC bus. They are on time every day. And then if there's like a system in place, like for example, I've seen it in Japan, US, Spain, England, that you could check how long a bus will take to get to your location. Say you see 2 minutes away, 3 minutes away, whatever. That also helped people to, organize themselves and make use of their time. So that's what I would say for both transportation and remote work, local remote work.
Yeah, to add to the transportation bit, I'd say that that's something that is really for a public transport system because going by years of experience, particularly out to here where I am, the thing is, if vehicle not full, they're not going anywhere. So whether it takes a couple seconds or half an hour for it to full. That's the amount of time it's going to be there waiting. So, and I understand because gas money and all of that. So there has to be some kind of system in place, and that's going to come from top down organization to say, all right, things just have to run on time along these routes so that people can look at the app and say, all right, this thing is coming in the next 5 minutes, and the one after it is coming in the next 20 minutes. So I either have to really hustle now to get to that first one, or I can take a little bit of extra time if I have it to grab the second one, depending on what their schedule is like. So yeah,
Yeah.
that all of that has been planned from way up top. And but do we have that? I don't know what to call it. Do we have that capability? I
Oh,
don't know.
so that thank you for mentioning that, Andrea. I just remembered something. Oh, there's like on time tax. Well, not on time. I'm not sure what Amber is going to do with on time. We shall see. But Uber and InDrive and so forth. So that offers it. But of course, for the local red plate taxi, that's a different story, which is what you're mainly talking about. For the red plate taxi, or even the coaster, um, that goes back to a people problem of being productive. So for example, and it's the only set of taxis I've seen done it. It's in actual Spanish Town, um, Kingston taxi, meaning from Spanish Town to Kingston. What they do is that they don't fight over passengers. So if you come first, they will make sure you get your vehicle is loaded, if they don't have any space, because if the first, can't fit with it because of, they don't want to go in a tight squeeze car or they're big in body, whatever, they'll say, oh, just go in that other person vehicle. So there's no fight out or fighting over customers. So it's a bit more systematic because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people trying to catch a taxi to go to Kingston. So it don't make sense that there is like four people come initially, two people in one car and two people in another vehicle. That means both vehicles are just waiting in the queue for more people. So if those four can go in the first vehicle and that drive off, and then next set of people that come, hopefully more people will come and more people always come, they can get and then drive off. So it's a matter of adapting a more systematic mindset out to, you know, create some form of oh wealth in terms of oh passengers will come because it's a matter of supply and demand, and there's always a lot of supply and less demand when come on to those type of situations. That's my take on it.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense. But no, we're kind of looking. Yeah, there's a difference to be accounted for between urban and rural area. Urban area, there's always people trying to get to places. Rural, sometimes there might be a rush, and sometimes it's just a ghost town. And so, yeah, private transport will be like, well, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know how long I'm going to be here waiting for that other person. Sometimes they will leave out a bit, but sometimes it'll be like, maybe if I only have two persons and I leave out, I might find someone on the road, might not find someone. If they think that they won't find someone on the road, they're going to stay there for the next half an hour waiting for that other two persons to get in so they can leave because again at the end of the day they have to make their gas money and all of that.
Actually, as you touch on that topic, that's actually something I was thinking about because I'm originally from Westmoreland, but I reside in Portmore. I'm actually back home in Westmoreland now, sorting out some stuff. And I was thinking, just like how they have like Uber where you can see the drivers come in, I'm thinking for like rural areas would they need the reverse of that where drivers can look and see if there are actual passengers on the road. Because you have some areas where sometimes there's no one on the road and they're just driving up and down waiting, or sometimes you have 4 or 5 persons waiting and then it's just one taxi comes and the one taxi comes it full and everyone 5 persons not holding in the one taxi.
Yeah. So, guys, especially listening to what you guys were pointing out or touching on in terms of the private entities or the hackney carriages or those type of vehicles. You see, in respect to the transportation problem that we have in Jamaica, firstly, we have to look at the government or the people owned services, the public services, which would be JUTC in our case, for the most part. And one thing that I haven't heard you guys talk about is the fact that in 2014, 15, thereabout, there were actually boards in the transportation center that showed the timings for the buses in terms of when they would come, or supposed to, I should say, supposed to come. When one arrived, it would normally update that board, but it would follow some weird timings where it assumes that you should reach the next destination by X time. And then when you reach that destination, like an hour later, then you update that board to say, oh, it actually reached at this time. That system, it was flawed, but it was a touch in the right direction, and then it faded out. The second thing was the integration with Google Maps. There was a small article about it, but it was still evident that it was a they were trying. Where I think even now today, if you go into Google Maps, you will be able to see the list of buses for a specific route and timings for those buses. They are not 100% accurate because I know that Google uses GTFS, I believe. I don't know what it stands for, General Transit something protocol that institutions in the countries would have to update and let Google get in order to basically track the buses scheduling, their on-time departure times. And then there's another part about it where Google allows individuals to update those lists. It's like a crowdsourced thing where they're able to upload the lists and metadata information. So basically, people could go on and be able to say, oh, bus is at 100% capacity, bus is hot, bus is not running good, or some, trivial stuff like that that people could actually update. The government has not really followed up on that. So the first thing we would definitely need to do is to actually look at what government needs to do to actually re-implement the stuff that it already had and to work with providers like Google to actually make it a system that is available. Because it's there, the infrastructure is there.
Okay. So funny you mentioned that I touched on it a bit earlier. But actually you brought up some really good point. I will say this. The government has been working on it. It's just not a priority. That's the issue. In fact, actually couple of us in this group know the person that implemented Google Transit for Jamaica. Is also in the group, not in this call, but it's in the group. I'll bring it up with him um, because that's it goes back to what is priority and what can be implemented fast and get through the procurement problem for the government to do something about it. Because, you have the budget proposal and all these stuff to go through. But um, whether they see it as impactful, that's the question. We as tech people that think about solution on a granular level, while on government side it's more macro, and there's so many things to fix or solve for a country. So priority becomes an issue. Even though there's corruption and so forth that counters that, but at the same time they are working on it. It's just not a priority.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely see that because I know the solution each year, year on year, for the transportation problem in our country is always to buy more buses. I mean, yeah, that helps the problem somewhat, but the customers, the consumers of the service still are lacking in a lot of information about the overall service that they're getting. So that's one of the things definitely need to improve. And the second note about the other private institutions, the private drivers, etc. One thing I could definitely say is that in some other countries, you have agencies that are government affiliated, private car owned institutions. So I think that would definitely be something that the government or something that we would have to look into to proposing or getting done. Because if we have an organization that is regulated by a public body that provides, hackney carriages, not like a on time or so, but a government regulated taxi business, then I think that would really help to alleviate some of the issues. Yeah, you guys understood my second point, by the way?
Oh,
Because
yeah, yes. Apparently there was an awkward silence. Yeah, but yes. I do agree. And it all goes back, to be honest, to the whole um just procedure. Um, and it's a people problem. Because adapt, even for like from a tech side, to adapt, it starts from the people willing to adapt. So I don't know how to solve that problem, or what to say to solve that problem, but it's a problem that needs to be solved. So,
yeah, I
so
100% agree. But yeah, it was mentioned earlier that the problem is more pronounced here. Like Ocean said that this has been resolved. This is not an issue in most of, well, at least the cities in the US. Definitely not in Japan and some other countries. So, what is it really that makes us different from them? What like yeah, I wouldn't mind getting some kind of
alright,
understanding how is it that their systems work
alright.
differently from ours to make them more productive in that case or more efficient.
So
We have
it's such
we have everything, we have everything. It's just as Oshin was saying, it's a prioritization by government for certain services that need to be maintained and built out.
yes. There's that, and that's a key important point. And the other point is mindset. Um, if you notice, Japan is a conformative country where they conform to whatever the government say, and on top of that, Japanese people generally don't like to waste time. They're all about like service. How fast can something get done, and they will go the distance to put policies, procedures, technology in place to reach that solution the shortest possible time. So again, mindset. US mindset. US, as you know, people would say is a country. I don't remember the big statement, but is a country of possibility, freedom, whatsoever. So even though there's a lot of laws, regulations, policies, and so forth in the US, they don't necessarily hinder ease of doing business or conduct activities and transactions. So Jamaican policies, procedures, whatsoever hinders how we do business in Jamaica. Because even to start a simple business, it it's a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of stuff, and it goes back to mindset. Are we as a country willing to go to the distance to create system, policies, and so forth to get to a solution at the shortest possible time without like I don't want to say without being the one that wants to implement it because that's where corruption comes in. You want to be in power. They want to be in power. They want to be the one known to do this and so forth. Instead of as a functional country, um, they can implement the solution and it continues after a party changes. So, and we all seen it where one party did something, and of course it happened in US and other countries, but not at degree as how it happened in Jamaica where one party does something and the other party will just kill it. And then we're back to square one. So is the functional mindset of efficiency. Are we willing to get to the shortest the solution using the shortest path that does still maintain safety, security, and privacy? So that's another point to this whole issue of productivity in the country.
What that's sounding like now, that's sounding like is a cultural issue then, because a lot of places in Jamaica they don't like using systems because they feel like they're being tracked.
I
Yes, it
mean,
is
yeah,
a
yeah.
cultural issue. Can go ahead, you can go ahead.
Oh no, we're saying yeah, yeah, definitely. As Oshin was saying, it's the mindset is one of the biggest problems that we have, and one of the reasons why I mentioned the public privatization entity. So you would have an entity that provides, motor vehicle services, taxes, etc. But it would be by the government in control, because I realize that a lot of people, especially in our country, want to have somebody to blame or somebody to complain to when things goes wrong. Because Jamaican people love to be able to point a finger. That's one thing I know for a fact. And that also brings the second point that you were just mentioning about feeling that they're being tracked or watched. Because this idea is, I'm borrowing this idea from the Chinese government. Because while I stayed in China, I lived in China for 2 years. And one of the things was that they have it's a company. I think it's called Didi. I don't remember what is the English name for it. I think it's DD. And one of the reasons why they implemented DD was one, yeah, to improve the services, but of transportation mainly, but also to be able to track most, if not all, of their citizens, their routes, their daily activities, and basically just the scheduling of their lives. And offering a service that basically gets you where you want to go every day. It was a perfect way for them to do that. So that's gonna be something that is definitely going to come up because it will give the government a definitely sure way of knowing where you're going, when you're going there, and who you're going with. But it's just a cultural mindset that is really hindering us, as well as the governmental aspect of things changed based on who is in power, and the longevity of certain implementations are fickle for what reason I don't know. Corruption.
I like the turn that the discussion has taken. So let me start with I think yeah, I've been hearing these examples like Japan and America. I've been hearing all the good things in, but I haven't heard anybody mention the flip side of Japanese culture. You know, a lot of these persons are overworked. You know, Japan's population is facing the current threat of kind of disappearing because they're just not having any children or because they're too busy working. And then there's of course, you know, the whole some persons just choosing not to live anymore because of how they feel and how the country is. So yeah, you know, you look at some countries and some cultures, you're like, you know, this is great. America is something that we could probably spend all night talking about the problems there, and the shootings and everything else. And even China, right? China is this massive surveillance state where even the billionaires aren't safe. If the billionaires feel like their head got too big, well, they can be removed from society, right? So every culture has the pros and the cons there. As far as Jamaica is concerned, yes, somebody mentioned we don't really like to take accountability for things. However, though, some of the financial gains that the country has made today is because of both previous administrations deciding on taking a particular path of debt reduction, right? So we have to really give them props for that. And it was mentioned that the one administration doesn't like continue the thing for the other one because they don't want to give them the credit. They don't want to say, hey, you know, that administration did this, so you know, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, you know, politicians are gonna do what they need to do to kind of vote, kind of get the votes. Although I feel like things are kind of improving a bit based on where I see things going. But nonetheless, for a culture to change, it would be a little difficult because you know Jamaicans kind of stuck in their ways. Somebody asked how you can kind of push the people along. One of my suggestions would be, you know, form some ed tech or educational company that's gonna go around and you know tell the people of the greatness of using AI and you know productivity tools. And I actually posted a link. Yeah, I posted something in the chat where the government was saying that these new buses have cameras on them, and there'll be a JUTC app coming out soon, where you'll be able to track where the buses are. Also, posted a link to an event we did where the developer who worked on Google Transit. He was there, he was talking, and he was giving people, you know, career advice. And he basically spelled out the whole story as to how he got that whole Google Transit for JUTC contract and how it propelled his career going forward. Now then, we are about, I'd say, 2 hours into this today. So I want to kind of wrap things up. You know, if there's anything any of you would like to say about, you know, how we can improve Jamaica's productivity, something that we haven't heard before or gonna add on, you can tell us now.
Really, it kind of seems to me it's almost the opposite of that, honestly, because we keep coming back to the point where it's a matter of mindset, and as was mentioned earlier, there are gatekeepers in positions of power, and yeah, it tends to be people who are close to, I guess, retirement age, and they want to ensure that their legacy is set and all of that. And that's how do you change a mindset? I guess that's a question all on its own right there. Mindset is a problem. How do we approach that kind of a problem? So we still, it feels to me like we're still stuck in this point where we want to say, all right, this is how we can become more productive. But if it's a human problem, how do we deal with a human problem? A tech problem is a matter we can just go in and use the scientific method and deal with that. How do you approach a human problem?
All right, the answer to that is pretty straightforward. One of the things I mentioned previously is that it's a bit of a top-down approach. The man at the top says, "Hey, we're gonna use this technology, and you're all gonna have to apply online, renew your passports." Then I just say it goes. You have to just implement this system, and you don't have to apply for your passport renewal online, which is happening. Secondly, if you want to bring people along, you have to understand the human being, the human animal. Most persons are self-concerned, or you have to appeal to self-interest. So you say to this 70-year-old minister, this 70-year-old who runs some big financial corporation, hey, if we implement this technology that streamlines loans, right, that makes it easier for people to borrow loans online, we can improve the bottom line, we can improve top line revenue, and we can improve the bottom line, which is profit. So by implementing this system, it'll make it easier for more persons to, take out loans, and making it easier for them to take out loans will also improve the brand and brand equity, right? Overall business will improve, and they'll recommend to a friend, hey, you can put yourself in some debt easily by going over into this company, right? So by appealing to the individual at the top saying, hey, we're gonna make more money doing this, or hey, this is gonna improve you and the shareholders in some way, you can bring these people along and convince them. Even the persons who are afraid of losing their work, you can tell them, hey, I heard that you have an interest in that programming stuff, those guys behind those terminals hacking and thing, right? Why don't you take this course in programming at this academy, and you can get a job where you're at home. You don't have to be at this front desk being this receptionist anymore. You're at home in your house working remotely, and you're getting paid twice as much. This person hearing that, oh, we can get paid more and we can be more comfortable. They're gonna run off, do that course, upskill themselves, and they're better off, the country is better off for it, right? So you have to appeal to the self-interest of the individual in front of you. All right, so does anybody have anything they'd like to add, anything we haven't touched on, reproductivity, etc.? All right, I will take that as a no. So closing statements, you all can unmute, go ahead, and just can sum up what we talked about. You can tell us how you feel at the end of all this, and you can say how X topic, how you felt on X topic, etc., etc. So you can, give your closing statements.
All right, I'll start. Well, a good discussion. Lot of valuable points. I did get some additional points that I kind of want to take a personal stab at, even if it means that I should ping a particular person and say, hey, what's going on with the JUTC Google Transit integration, to see if some progress can be made. I do think, of course, the country is moving in the right direction. It's just our if it's moving slowly or fast, but of course, want to play whatever part to speed up that implementation process. So, good discussion, and each person added valuable points. So, yeah, it's good for me. That's my take on this. A good feeling, by the way, with Jason. Because even though we made some points, you do ask, like, okay, right? For example, we made good points about Japan and what they've been doing, and you highlighted, okay, there's other problems that other countries have that kind of we're not having. So you chaired the session well. So great job.
Yeah, I want
Okay.
to echo all of those sentiments as well. Yeah, it was a great debate, another great debate as usual. And yeah, we just need to figure out the next steps, because I guess one of the things that we really want to take away from these things as well is to say, not just say, all right, came and we spoke about these things, but what can we actually do about it? So, as Oshin said, can go and ping that person about the JUTC app setup and so on. So, it would be nice for us to like just have that feeling that say, all right, after this is done, we have an action plan to go for it, and in our own way, based on whatever access we have, whoever we have access to, and try and make a tweet there, here and there to make the country better, make the country more productive.
All right. I am gonna assume there are no more closing statements. Right? So it's been a good debate. I heard all sorts of interesting points of view, right? I think one of the things I'd like you all to take away from this is, how can you as an individual increase your own productivity, what tools you can use. There's also, talking to family members and people around you, because we are, at the end of the day, Jamaica. Jamaica is its people. So if its people are more productive, then Jamaica overall will be more productive. So it's been a great night. Hope you all had a lovely time, and that's it. Until the next debate.
Okay, take care.
Later, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.